"What are you doing in the technical zone?" "Just fixing my van." That's all she said. Grease-covered hands, worn-out khakis, a faded gray shirt. But when she wiped her forehead, the world stopped. Because hidden beneath the sleeve was a tattoo, a symbol long believed to have died with an entire unit 15 years ago. And in that moment, everyone on base realized she wasn't just a mechanic. She was the ghost who saved them all. Her name was Lena Morales, 38 years old, petite frame, brown hair pulled back in a no-nonsense tie. On paper, she was a part-time civilian contractor, responsible for water filtration systems in the Valridge Air Force Base cafeteria. No rank, no uniform, no clearance. That morning, her van had broken down just outside the technical yard. A gate guard let her push it into an empty spot by the auxiliary zone to fix it herself. Nothing out of the ordinary. She was beneath the hood, elbows deep in grease, when a young engineer passed by and frowned. "This area's restricted," he snapped. "You shouldn't be working here." Before she could explain, a lieutenant approached with authority in his step. "Let me see your access card." Lena didn't argue. She didn't protest. She simply looked down and wiped sweat from her forehead, pulling her sleeve back in the process. That's when it happened. The gray fabric slid just far enough to reveal a tattoo on her right arm. A silver hawk with a broken wing, lined with alphanumeric code, OXB77. Nearby, Colonel Monroe, a seasoned officer with a steel gaze, caught a glimpse of the ink and froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. "That tattoo, it's real." He stepped forward slowly, as if seeing a ghost. Because that symbol belonged to Hawkbreaker Unit 09, a mobile engineering team listed as killed in action 15 years earlier during Operation Cinderline. No survivors, no bodies recovered, a unit erased from active history. But here stood a woman, covered in grease, fixing a van, wearing their mark. And Monroe remembered a photo from a long-sealed report. A soot-covered woman in a burning desert base, with that same tattoo. He'd thought it was legend, a classified story buried under red tape, until now. Colonel Monroe couldn't shake what he saw. As Lena quietly packed her tools and closed the van hood, the tattoo on her arm burned into his memory. It wasn't just a symbol. It was a classified ghost from a war zone that no one dared to revisit. He pulled out his phone and made a discreet call to the Tactical Data Office. "I need a match on a Hawkbreaker tattoo. Unit code OXB77. There was a pause, then a response. "That file's sealed under Operation Cinderline, classified top secret. All unit members listed as KIA, tattoo bearer unknown." Monroe turned back toward the van, but Lena was gone. Only tire tracks remained on the sun-baked concrete. He walked briskly to his car and opened an old folder he hadn't touched in years. Inside was a printout from a redacted mission report. A single photograph, grainy and smoke-damaged, showed a woman standing in front of burning equipment at a desert outpost. Her face was mostly hidden by a charred filtration mask. But on her right arm, just barely visible, the same broken-winged hawk. He remembered that photo vividly. It had haunted him. The report described how someone, an unidentified engineer, had kept a critical navigation station online for 17 days under enemy fire, buying enough time for the evacuation of hundreds of personnel. The last line chilled him then. And now, final status, presumed dead, body not recovered. But that wasn't true. That woman had lived. She'd survived. And she'd spent the past few years quietly fixing water systems no one paid attention to. He made another call. "I want Lena Morales brought back to base. Not as a civilian, as someone we need to debrief. Now." An hour later, his aide returned with an answer. "We found her, sir. She said she's been expecting this day for years." She just hoped it wouldn't come. When Lena walked into the temporary command office, she didn't flinch. She stood small but steady, in the same oil-stained khakis and faded shirt. No uniform, no medals, just quiet acceptance. Monroe stood to face her. "You're the woman from the Cinderline photo, aren't you?" She nodded slowly. "I tried to fix the navigation system. I succeeded. But when I came out, everyone was gone. Why didn't you return to service?" She looked down, voice steady. "Because I had nothing to return to. I wasn't even supposed to be there that day. I was on medical leave for a knee injury. But when I heard the distress call, I went anyway." Monroe was silent. "You weren't assigned," he finally said, almost to himself. "No, but when people are calling for help, assignment doesn't matter. Only your ability to help does." Colonel Monroe stood frozen as Lena's words settled like dust after a sandstorm. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She simply stated the facts, like someone who had lived with them for far too long. 17 days, she continued, voice even. "I kept the nav systems running from beneath the floor panels. I used wiring scraps, solder pulled from backup consoles, parts scavenged from broken comms gear. The systems didn't go down, not even once." Monroe sat down slowly, stunned by the clarity in her voice. "And you did all of that while the base was under siege?" She nodded. "They shelled the upper platform every night. I slept in a utility tunnel, wrapped in thermal tarp. During the day, I'd surface to make repairs. By the end, the only working system on the base was navigation. That's how the airlift team found us." He was speechless. The official report had called it a miraculous recovery, a base presumed lost, still sending coordinated GPS signals when the evac teams arrived. They'd credited luck, tech redundancy, and strong leadership. But the truth had never been included in the declassified summary. It wasn't luck. It was Lena. She leaned forward slightly. "When the evac team landed, I stayed in the shadows. I wasn't in uniform. My name wasn't on any manifest. I knew they'd ask questions, so I left through a drainage tunnel. No one stopped me." "And you just disappeared?" "I went to a civilian clinic in Aransas. They treated me under a false name. Burns, dehydration, nerve damage in both hands. I stayed quiet. And by the time I could walk again, the war had moved on." Monroe shook his head, overwhelmed. "Why didn't you ever come back?" "Because the system already made peace with me being gone. The story was cleaner that way. No exceptions, no loose ends." There was pain behind her eyes, but no self-pity. Just calm resignation. She had done what needed to be done. And when the world didn't ask for her anymore, she simply stopped offering. Monroe stood up. "You saved hundreds of lives. You deserve recognition, reinstatement, hell. A medal the size of a dinner plate." Lena smiled faintly. "I don't want a medal. I don't want a ceremony. I just want to keep fixing things, like I always have." But Monroe wouldn't let it go. He launched a quiet internal inquiry. Through layers of declassified fragments and testimonies buried in forgotten server backups, he pieced together the full scope of what Lena had done. Reports showed she had repaired over 60 systems under fire. She rerouted power through charred infrastructure by hand. She personally stabilized the navigation relay that allowed 4 aircraft to land safely, extracting the wounded. She'd done it with no backup, no command chain, no recognition. And she'd never once told anyone. What stunned Monroe most wasn't her survival. It was her continued service. For the past 3 years, she'd worked at Valridge as a civilian maintenance tech, supporting cafeteria water pumps and base filtration systems. Always quiet, always precise. always invisible. It wasn't just that she had once saved a base. She never stopped. When Hurricane Maria hit the Gulf Coast, Lena volunteered without being asked. She kept the backup generators online at a civilian hospital for 72 straight hours, allowing 200 patients to be evacuated before the basement flooded. No photos, no credit, no name in any report, just results. Monroe realized he had been walking past a hero for 3 years and never knew it. So he made a decision. A quiet workstation was installed in the tech wing. A wooden plaque was placed above it. No brass, no rank, just words that finally told the truth. Lena Morales, the one who never leaves machines or people. Word spread quietly like a ripple in still water. No announcement, no official memo, just whispers among engineers, pilots, and base personnel. That woman, the one with the wrench and the quiet eyes? Yeah, that's her, the one from Cinderline. Lena Morales didn't return to uniform. She didn't ask to. She declined all media requests, all medal ceremonies. She just kept working, patching leaking pipes, fixing glitching sensors, and restoring aging systems long considered beyond repair. But something had changed. The guards at the entrance stopped checking her ID. When she rolled her oil-streaked van into the lot, the barriers lifted automatically. Engineers who used to ignore her now greeted her with quiet respect, sometimes even a salute, though she always waved it off with a humble nod. Inside the maintenance wing, they began referring to tough cases as Lena jobs. If a system was too far gone, if the manuals failed, if no one knew what to do, someone would mutter, "Try it Lena's way." And over time, a new protocol took root. Lena 09, an improvised repair doctrine passed informally from technician to technician. It wasn't about tools or schematics. It was about attitude, staying calm under pressure, thinking laterally, using whatever you had on hand to make things work when they shouldn't. Young engineers started quoting her like doctrine. If it still breathes power, it can be fixed. The system's only dead when you stop trying. Without asking for it, Lena had become the soul of the technical wing, and her quiet presence raised the bar. 3 months after Monroe reinstated her name in military records, Valridge Base posted the highest equipment reliability rating in the entire Air Force. Not because of newer gear, but because Lena had personally trained the staff. Not through lessons, but through example. She showed them what service looked like when no one was watching. And they responded, not out of duty, but out of belief. Lena Morales never asked to be remembered. She didn't want a uniform, a ribbon, or her name etched in stone. All she ever wanted was a quiet place to work, a machine that still had a chance, and the time to make it whole again. But legends don't need permission to live on. A year after her tattoo was rediscovered, Lena's name became a quiet standard. At bases across the country, when engineers faced emergencies, when backup failed and pressure mounted, they said the same thing: fix it like Lena would. They didn't know her story. They didn't need to. Her legacy wasn't written in awards. It was embedded in every life she quietly saved, every system she refused to abandon, and every young tech who now believed that being invisible didn't mean being unimportant. One day, a recruit asked her, "Ma'am, why do you always fix things no one else touches?" She smiled and replied, "Because sometimes the things left behind are the ones that matter most."